Right, steering wheel. Now Beatrix has quite a good steering wheel. It has a leather steering wheel, being the connoisseur spec, and it's in pretty good condition, as I'm going to show you in a second. But there are some wear marks naturally, as you would find over the years, and sunlight and fingerprints and oil from your hands, because we leave, obviously oil comes off our hands and it goes onto the leather. People don't really clean the leather. I mean, wet wipes and a damp cloth are not really appropriate. They're okay, but you need alcoholic cleaners to remove all the grease and then moisturize the leather, which is what I tend to do with leather steering wheels, just like you would do with leather seats. What if we clean leather seats, why neglect the steering wheel? So I kind of don't get that philosophy, but basically I'm going to re-dye that steering wheel, and it's pretty simple. And the best thing is I've got all the stuff left over from when I re-dyed the Focus leather steering wheel, so I'm going to take you through the process in a second. But there's just something I'm going to show you that I've done in the last 5 minutes. Now it concerns the door shuts. Now for some reason this is not the original door. It's a red door. So I think this car has been in more than one or two clatters. There was a clatter at the front. Obviously bumper, bonnet has been replaced, and potentially it's affected the windscreen, which is why I don't believe this is the original. That's the original wing, but this door has been replaced and it's been sprayed up quite well. You have some sort of telltale signs that I've covered up on the sides to depict that it was originally red, but it's okay. But I've got a feeling that they messed around with the doors a little bit, because the shut lines were never good. Now I have just messed about with the shut lines. I should have actually started filming before I started messing around, but as you can see, the shut lines are quite obvious, particularly on Starlight Silver. And if I take you to the other side, which I haven't messed about with. Now this side, oops, shouldn't leave the door open. I should imagine that this is pretty original. So if we just take a look here and have a glance. So the immediate impression is too much gap around here, around where the back door meets the quarter panel. Well, I can tell you what, that's as good as what you're going to get, because there's no way you can move that door further that way against the latch. That's it. That's all you're getting. I mean, the fact that you've got this rubber door seal that kind of curves round quite nicely to stop any air getting in. It's quite a nice touch, that, by Rover. And obviously water as well. But that will go no further. That is as tight as what you'll get. That's probably about 4, possibly a 5mm gap. I think it's 4.5mm. I've measured it. Now, the door, between the two doors, you kind of got this issue where the doors actually bow out, and it's the same on the other side. Now I ain't messed with this side at all, but the doors kind of come in and then they bow down a little bit. Now the problem with trying to get these doors back up is, if I move this door up, this is not going to be equal. It's going to sort of sort of bow down, and then it's going to go like that and then bang up. You want to get that swage line as close as possible when you're messing with these doors. But this is just not acceptable. That is really poor. And I can only assume it came out the factory like that. Do anybody else have issues with their 45s and late Rover products where the shut lines are just all over the place? Because I tell you what, it reminds me of my P6 days, because you sort of move one door and then the other door doesn't quite line up. Then you've got to move a wing, because all the wings were bolt off on a P6. So you've got to adjust the wing, and then you've got to adjust the boot. So you never finished. You never finished. It's always a compromise, because the tooling was just rubbish. The way they made the doors and the quarter panels was like, just, there's no accuracy at all. And that's a P6, and that's a car with high build quality, believe it or not. But this is quite a gap of practically 6mm. And then we come to the front here where it meets the front wing, and we've got about 4mm going on here, but it gets tight here, and then it bows out again. It's just rubbish. And even this door, actually, that is rubbish. That is actually rubbish. Is this shut? Yeah, that is absolutely garbage. So that is actually not sitting even proud in. That's sitting quite nice at the bottom there. So come around here, and yeah, we've got a similar issue here where the doors are bowing out, and this is after I've adjusted it, by the way, guys. Now this swage line is not quite right, but as far as I'm aware, it was like that before. I can't get that latch to move up, so I can't. I've adjusted this latch and I've moved it up as far as I possibly can. That's not going up anymore, and if I start messing around, that door will not latch like that. That's exactly how it should shut. You shouldn't have to bang it in for it to latch. If it like goes like that, that means that the latch is not adjusted to the door properly. It should. Well, I've done it on camera. There you go. It's shut fine. Now I'm going to leave that as it is, because even though the swage line is fractionally off, just fractionally, as you can see, I'm happy with that, because this gap was dreadful. It was like 6 millimeters. I don't know what they've been doing on this side, but this is now the correct, and this is the same as the other side now. So it kind of gets a bit tight up here, then it starts bowing down. The front door is fractionally higher, I am aware about that. The best thing is about the door, right, it's fractionally higher than the rear door, but if you come to the bottom, it's taller. It's still longer. This is ridiculous. I know that this door has come off another car, but you would have thought that the tooling would have cut all the doors to the same size. I mean, this is basically evidence that the tooling was rubbish. Also, it's bowing out there a little bit, which I'm not happy about, but the gap again is the same. It's 5 millimeters. So I've just shifted this door fractionally back. So this used to be about 4 millimeters. Now it's about 5. So it's roughly the same as the other side. This is kind of the same as the other side, fractionally tighter down there, but that's kind of a good shut line, that is. And then it obviously goes tight here and then bows out again. So I tell you what, do you know what, I like to say the build quality is pretty good from Rover at times, and in areas it is, but this is an area that really leaves a lot to be desired from Rover. I mean, what I have done as well, now what I did do to adjust the door, by the way, guys, you just take these bolts out, 30mm bolts, slacken them off and start adjusting it. You'll need an assistant ideally. I mean, I did it myself. I just held the door where it was until I was happy, and then got a socket and ratchet and just tighten them up. So that's all done. I did also try and adjust this latch, and it has worked, because this door didn't used to latch. It used to do that. It used to do that. Even when you slammed it, it used to do that. Now, there we go. That was reasonably light pressure there, and it's latched on. That's great. I've done something today. That door also latches nicely now. So the improvement is today that the doors latch properly, like the other side. I wasn't happy with this side, and I don't think they did a very good job, to be honest. I think they did some jobs on the paint, and then they rushed the job towards the end of the day. And I just can't believe that, yeah, this door is longer at the bottom and it's taller at the top. It needs shaving off. So there's no way I can get that rear door to line up to match that, because if I move this door up, it's going to look ridiculously short compared to the door. It needs shaving. That's really bad. Anyway, I'm going to ignore this now, because I've done this now, and it's just a top tip. Also, I've got a top tip for you before I actually stop this little clip, before I go and get my stuff, because I haven't got any of my leather stuff. Basically, if you want to adjust one of these latches and you're trying to fiddle about with it, and then you put in a position, tighten the bolts, try and shut the door, and it doesn't work, don't keep faffing around like that. What I suggest is all you do is you slacken these bolts off so it's able to move. Leave it. Shut the door, and what will happen is that latch will it will be tough at first for the door to shut, but once the door is shut, maybe with a bit of pressure, it will move that latch so that the latch is in the perfect position. That's a top tip that I have from a bodywork man who does this every day. You know, body shops, they take doors off, they put them back on, and then they have to adjust the latches and everything. That is the tip I have from him. And then you open the door and the latch is in the perfect position. The door has forced it into the right position. So then you very gently, bit at a time, tighten up these bolts. Because what you'll find, if you tighten one bolt up a lot and not the other, it will start to twist, and then you're back to square one. You have to do the whole procedure again. So just do it a bit at a time, and then you're done. And you end up with a door. Well, that wasn't a good example. Maybe it does need just a slight more of a push than that, Andrew. It is a door. Now, the subject of this video is this. Now, as you can see, the steering wheel is actually in really, really good condition, but it has got some wear, and it's got this grey sort of finish. It shouldn't be, it should be kind of black. And if you look at the top of the steering wheel, this is kind of the colour we're looking at, but at the bottom it's kind of worn to a grey. That is kind of not the finish we want. My leather dye is black. I am going to smooth this leather out using some very fine sandpaper. There is some wear here, there's some wear on the other side where your hands go, and I'm going to make a really good job of this steering wheel, and I'm going to show you exactly how easy it is. We're doing it on the car because it's easier on the car. Simple. Now I'm going to go to my garage down the road and get all the bits and pieces and cut to the next shot, Andrew. Right, I have all my equipment apart from the alcohol cleaner, which I forgot, but don't worry about the alcohol cleaner because it's pretty clean as it is. I'm not going to avoid too much. Now what I am going to do is move this steering wheel up a little bit just to give me some actual room. There we go. So we've got plenty of room to work on the steering wheel. That goes up quite a long way as a steering wheel. But anyway, what we have here, guys, is essentially, oh come on camera, thank you very much. Essentially we have a kit, and of course in that kit we must have some tea, which is steaming my windscreen at the moment and probably helping it no end. I don't care about the windscreen. Anyway, what I wanted to say is these. Now this is all comes in the kit. I've just cut a bit of the foam off. There was a bit more foam in the kit, but I thought I don't need any more. Small cloth, some sandpaper. I would recommend, it depends on the state of your steering wheel. Now the advice I have is this has a nice grain to it. I don't want to get rid of that grain by using a coarse sandpaper. It really, that's not in my intention. If you used what they say in the book, like a 360 grit sandpaper, yes, it'll be a nice and smooth steering wheel, but you'll get rid of all these this grain of leather, and I think that is such a shame. I like to feel it when I'm actually driving. I can't feel as much on here, but maybe it's worn a bit more. But my intention is to get a very fine sandpaper on this, and that's what you want. Now the first stage is sanding down. Now I'm going to do this before I start masking up, because we don't need to mask up yet. The first stage is getting a piece of sandpaper and sanding it down. If there's any cracks, if there's any chunks or areas missing off the steering wheel, that's when you go to 360 grit sandpaper, because we need to get this really smooth. As I say, if I just open the door and I can actually show you, but this side is actually not bad at all. In fact, there's hardly any wear whatsoever. This steering wheel is definitely like 1 or 2 owners from new sort of thing. The only sort of wear is kind of there, but because the discolor we're getting, I thought I would go and actually have a complete re-dye since I have the kit. Now this is the dye. This is half a tub of dye. In fact, I only used half on my Focus steering wheel last year, and yeah, there's plenty in here. And also what you need to know about leather dye is it's different from the leather dye. The leather dye, you have the dye and then you have the lacquer, the top coat, the protective coat, which is either a matte or a gloss finish, and you can mix the two together with a binder. And usually leather seats are 75% matte, 25% gloss from the factory. That's the mix, so you have to do a lot of mixing around if you're doing leather seats. But for this, it becomes with a protectant in the dye, so it is literally apply as many coats as possible, obviously let it dry between coats, and you're done. There's no protective coating. Now if you've got cracked leather, and this is something that I'm never going to use on this steering wheel because it's in such good condition, is the leather binder. Now this leather binder is for areas of damage and cracks and chunks so that the dye can embed into the leather. We are not going to need this today because it is simply just too good a wheel to do. I think I only used a slight bit of that on the Focus's steering wheel. I think there was just a bit here where it was uneven. I had to smooth it down with about some 400, 500 grit, and 360 grit initially. Then I smoothed it over to about 1,000 grit. Then I put the leather binder on. Then you basically sand it even more, and then it's ready for the dye. But the first stage is the most important stage. We need to degrease. This is liquid degreaser. All this stuff is from Furniture Clinic. This is a kit. This is the Furniture Clinic steering wheel repair kit. You can get it on eBay for about 25 quid, something like that. It's not much at all. But the first stage is applying this to the steering wheel. So yeah, let's get cracking. We need to remove all the oils and potential greases that may be here. I don't think so, because I have degreased this quite a lot in the past, but nevertheless, you need to do this for the dye to embed. Otherwise, you're going to be repeating this in a few months. But first, more importantly, yeah, ammunition for me, because this is going to be a long day for me. I've got this job and I've got another job to do, so I'm trying to you know, spread myself out a bit. Yorkshire tea, anyone? I don't drink anything else. Anything else, it tastes like something water, which I won't say. Right, so we get this liquid degreaser. I mean, I'm wearing the right trousers. These are decent trousers, but hey, just take that off as well. There's a little tiny little cap, and just put the liquid degreaser into the cloth and just apply rigorously all over the place. Now this stuff, it needs I'd say a good 5 to 10 minutes to actually dry. Apparently if you get a hairdryer or a heat gun, you can speed the process up. Now I'm going to be using my cordless heat gun to speed the process of the actual dye itself, because when you're putting the coats on, it can take a while for it to actually completely and utterly dry between coats. But ideally you don't really want that. You don't want to be waiting for ages, so speed the process up. Get a hairdryer, get a heat gun, a gentle heat gun, mind you, and a cordless one is great, because the cordless ones are not as powerful as the corded ones, and that's a good thing, because heat guns tend to do a lot of damage pretty easily. But as you can see, I am just going really fully. Make sure you get here, because this is where all the sort of stitches are, and this is where your grease goes in, and you can't get it out. So just go all the way around several times. And I mean, this was a clean piece of cloth. It's not clean anymore. This is what you're getting out. Most people would have thought, oh, it's clean enough, let's just put the dye on. Oh yeah, with all this on? Yeah, sure. I would recommend opening the window as well, because it's a bit intoxicating, this stuff. This is... If anybody's had overproof, oh God, gin or the other stuff, I can't remember what it's called now actually, but if you've had a overproof alcohol from Jamaica or the Caribbean, this is probably more potent. Top tips: do not do this on a sunny day. Do it on an overcast day. I've picked the right day today. It's not too hot today. It's about 19 degrees today. And also another thing, obviously because of the fact that the steering wheel is on the car, doing this off the car would be such a pain. You'd be trying to not get the steering wheel caught on anything while the dye's actually going off. But when it's on the car, it's fine. You just got to mask up like we're going to do in a second. But make sure that you do get behind the wheel and have a good look, because I tell you what, I'm actually noticing a few areas that actually I didn't notice before. And this steering wheel is slippery smooth. That is what you're looking for. When you know you've done a good job, yes. But now I've touched it with my hands, and let's face it, our hands, we've got oil coming out of our pores all the time. And you're transferring that to the wheel. So do it again. Make sure there's no contamination. We don't want contamination. And if this takes 15-20 minutes, so be it. Keep going round. I mean, I've still got a little bit. I've got loads of this left. And quite frankly, I probably need to use this because it does have a sell-by date, and I think it's at about 12 months shelf life, and I think it's had that already. So just keep going into the crevices, and I'll cut back when I've done this to show you the end result. This is what you want to do. Just get in here, just these little crevices. Look at that bastard. It's all dirty. These are the areas that you just don't neglect. These are areas here where, because you kind of, look, you hold the steering wheel, your thumb's there. So clearly this is an area of high traffic and high grease. Now, that is pretty done. I'm really happy with that. I can see the wear kind of around here and here. And obviously, if we come around the back side, it's not too bad actually. It's really not too bad at all. There's some damage around here. Can't remember where it was now. There's some damage around here that you couldn't see. We're going to dye that. We're going to go obviously at the back, but we need to sellotape all the way around. On this side, if I open the door, there's some wear kind of here at the back, but as I say, I like to do my jobs really thoroughly. Now we're finished with you. Now we need to do a little bit of light sanding before we degrease again. We'll light sand and then a bit of a degrease again. So what I'm going to do now is break out my 1000 grit sandpaper, just 1000, because this is a good enough steering wheel. And if your steering wheel is just losing a bit of dye, but it hasn't actually deteriorated, cracked, this is a good steering wheel, this is. And what I'm going to do now is just sand back. We're not going to mask up yet. We're only going to mask up for the dye once we've actually done the sanding. Then we've cleaned again. Then we put the masking tape all around the edges of this piece. We could just take this out, that would be easier, but this piece comes out, but this piece where the horns are, thank you, this is stuck to the actual back of the steering wheel itself, so there's no point, and I don't want to be dyeing this because this is plastic. So we'll put the tape alongside here as nice as possible, and just take your time with that. But anyway, sandpaper, even though this camera angle is all usually fixing and tinkering. Anyway, 1000 grit sandpaper. Let's just go over really light. I mean, you're gonna watch this. Look at that. You see it all come off quite nicely. That level of that layer of dye is just starting to come out. This is the bit where it's going to start looking a bit rubbish because the dye is going to come off, but it's only going to be a light sand. That's it. We're just looking for a very light sand on this steering wheel, just to key. And this is the point, we're keying the lever to accept the new dye. We will need to go over and do a bit more degreaser after we've done this, because obviously we're going to need to clean up. This is where I forgot the alcohol cleaner, because preferably the alcohol cleaner is what you need to use after this stage, but the degreaser does kind of the same job. It's a cleaner at the end of the day. So just keep going over very, very lightly indeed. And obviously don't forget to do the back of the steering wheel, but it's looking rather faded at the moment. Ooh. This is what happens when you sand the steering wheel. It goes flat and it looks dreadful. Now, I had to get some of this 360 grit sandpaper, because there was an area that I was kind of looking at and thinking, this needs a bit of help. There was just an area there that needed going over a bit more rigorously. And then I went over the 1000 grit, and that is now quite smooth now. I may put some leather binder on that, because that's exactly what the leather binder is for. But anyway, next stage, I'm just going to degrease it again, and then we'll go to the next stage. Just make sure you get your sellotape nice and flush. So I'm just going to put all the sellotape around these edges, around that, and then obviously just make sure that this area is completely separate. So when we go around with the dye, we're not getting dye on the plastic. Same with the bottom. So really on this wheel, it's actually quite easy. On the Focus, it's a 4-spoke steering wheel, but this is a 3-spoke, so it's actually a bit easier for me to actually do this. But go all the way around. Make sure you go all the way around, and then you're ready. Right. What I'm going to do now we're all maxed up. Okay, that's all you need. Okay. We've got the leather binder here, and I'm just going to put this leather binder just at the back over here. Okay, just dab it there in that little area, just a little bit of a dab. That's it. Okay, and I think in exactly the same area on the other side, it's also needing just a little bit of dye. So clearly this is where your thumbs are, and it's a high level of wear. So that is it. That is it. That is literally all we need on this side. Okay, just a little bit of a dab on here. Okay, that binder now will form a really good base for the dye. I may need to go over and sand that when it's dried in a few minutes, but otherwise we're now ready for the dye. Right, we have the base colour and we have a sponge, and we are literally going to use that sponge. Bloody hell, it's turned into its own skin after being in storage for ages. Well, what I am going to do, actually, I'm sorry, before, I shouldn't have done that. Give it a shake. Just give it a small shake before you do this, okay? Because it's possible that the elements may have separated. So just give it a good shake. It doesn't say shake on the bottle. No, it doesn't. Whereas it does on the binder. So maybe this isn't necessary, but it's probably always good practice to do so. But anyway, let's put the dye on. Not a great amount, okay? Just a little bit. Just a little bit, okay? Not too much. So put that over there. Do not drop it on the carpet. And start applying. Now, I just go in dabs. This is the first coat. It's going to look rubbish, but just go in lots of dabs, okay? So hopefully it will have a decent impact, but again, it's not going to be uniform. I think on the Mark 1, it took about 6 or 7 coats, so I was happy with the even finish. And it is a technique of dabbing on the wheel, okay? You must just give it a dab, and that's what's required. Go all the way around the steering wheel. The impact will be quite impressive at first on the first coat, because naturally we've shaved a lot of the old dye off, so it looks very matte and faded. But now it's going to start coming back to life in a really good way. I mean, you can see on camera. In fact, this camera, as we're seeing it, it looks really shiny, doesn't it? Degreased. That's what it should look like. It shouldn't look like some piece of corrugated, oil-stained bleh. Steering wheels get really bad, and it's because people let them get bad. Ooh, a bit more dye. Look at that, it's gone straight in. Look at the difference there. Remember, the dabbing technique is good for getting in these little stitches all around here. So just get in and keep dabbing. Go all the way around, front and back. This could take some time on the first coat, but it's just an initial top up. That's why you've got this here. So you'll probably get dye all on this. But that's the idea, because you can go right to the edge and not worry about getting it on the plastic. See how blotchy it is? This is the first coat. That's kind of how blotchy it should be. But don't forget to do the back. Whew. Goodness me. What I would say to you guys, that's the first coat. Now on the first coat, because you're concentrating so much and getting a good nice dabby coat on this wheel, you might find that by the time you started down here and then you ended up here, by the time you finished that side, this side would have dried, so you can do another coat. So in effect, you can actually do kind of 2 coats in the first sitting. Now that I've done the first 2 coats and we've kind of covered all the extremities quite well, including round the back, which is still difficult to get to, but you can see on camera how blotchy it is. This is what happens with the first couple of coats. It's not a great finish, but it is actually a massive improvement. I mean, look on this side, you can see it's still blotchy and a bit weary in places, but don't worry, we're going to sort of we're going to counter this a little bit. Again, it looks good down there, even though because of the light I can't exactly show you in detail, but it's a good test. Please open a window, crack a window, open a door and say hello to the camera, the camera mount. But of course, obviously that's to aid the drying time, but of course you can actually just cheat, and my lovely Draper D20 gun is going to help out no end today. So just to speed things up a little bit between coats and then do another coat. And then we do another coat. Dum 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 dum. This is fantastic viewing, guys, but the idea is now with this third coat is it will start to become less blotchy and a bit more even, and that's what you want to see. As I say, it took 7 coats with the Mark 1 Focus last year, and I've no doubt that this will take kind of the same amount of coats. So you're gonna have to be patient here and just keep doing the coats as consistently as possible, and don't rush, because I know that some people can lose patience and start rushing, but you've gone through all this effort, you've done the hard bits. Now it's just a case of finishing off, and you can see where my tape has really come in handy, especially down here. You can see all this dye would have gone on the plastic if I hadn't put tape on it. You may want to double up and put another bit of tape if you really think you're that clumsy, but honestly you don't need to worry about that. Just, as I say, keep doing the back as well as the front, because you know you're going to see it from that side of the car, particularly at a show when people see the back of the steering wheel and it's like, oh no, you can tell where you put the effort in. So right, we are really getting there now, guys, and it's starting to look really nice. Now, after the 4th coat, I will tell you now, I think it's best practice when you blobbing it on is absolutely fine to just get the first few coats on, but after a while it starts to look a bit less blotchy, but it gets to the point where you can't really improve it. So I changed my technique, and this works for me. You start doing this, start spreading it, stop dabbing and start spreading it across. Can you see those lines there? That's just because this is the first coat that I've done this with. So this is the 4th coat, and we're just waving it around front and back. Okay, and we're starting to get this really uniform appearance. This is only going to require a couple more coats and we'll be done. I think we can kind of see some swage lines there, the movement lines. I mean, if we come here, this was the most warm part of the steering wheel, and now that is just, well, there's no difference at all. It's looking great. That all the stitches are looking fantastic. Look at that. We've got a high quality steering wheel here for the cost of £25, I will say. Now I'm just going to finish off with a couple of coats and we'll cut back to the final product. And this might take another half an hour after heating a couple more coats, but you just keep doing this motion and then you're done. I mean, honestly, this is an example of a steering wheel that has just lost its dye over the years, and it's a good steering wheel. But if your steering wheel was a bit worse than this, then you can try some of the much more coarser sandpaper to actually get it to come down. But I was a bit worried about losing this grain, and I think the Rover steering wheels have this lovely grain effect that you don't get on, let's say, a Focus Mark 1 leather steering wheel. So I could sand that flat and flush it out, but this, nah, you want to use a fine sandpaper if you can get away with it. If you can't, if your steering wheel is too far gone, it might be worth actually getting a second-hand steering wheel in much better condition like this one, with a bit of wear and loss of dye obviously, and re-dye it, what I've done here. So it's horses for courses. You've got to try a couple of different things, but this never fails to get results. And I mean, look at the stitching there. You can properly see how it's had an effect there, and it looks high quality. Unfortunately, I can't say the same about all the door cards. They've all decided to fall off the doors again. I knew that would happen, but you know, we're trying to improve the car little by little here, and this makes a huge improvement. And as something that is tactile, something that you touch all the time, it is worth doing this. It is worth doing this 100%, and I would fully recommend this kit. It's a £25 kit with everything that you need, and that is as far as that. I am going to reveal such a nice finish. You can see a bit of a colour difference between the two, but the truth is this is the correct colour of this steering wheel from the factory, so it has died down a bit. There should be a slight colour difference, but once this is gone, once I've gone over with a bit of plastic trim renovator, this will kind of match the same colour, so I wouldn't worry about this. This is standard steering wheel, a black dye basically. So I'm going to leave this episode here. If I can just unveil this bit at the back here, that might be handy. Just take the sellotape off, the grand unveiling, and we are done. Take care, guys.